Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the part of the world you are listening to me from. You are very welcome to another edition of Beth series, Biologists Explain This. Steady me, your friend, your biology tutor, Peters Abiodun. And in this edition, we'll be discussing something very interesting of social implication, but with biological basis. I'm sure you'll be wondering, what are we up to this time around? If you look at the screen, you will see very interesting pictures that will give an idea of what we're about to start. It's a journey. It's a journey that's going to be expository to open our eyes to certain things. We will be discussing issues from the biological point of view. We're going to start this introductory edition. So this is just an introduction. We are setting the foundation. We lay that foundation, setting the basis for the subsequent edition. So come along with us, call your friends, like, share, and then comment on this video. We like your comments before the next edition is out. This is an introductory edition. I want to discuss some issues that are very important to you and I, because as individuals we have to be informed before we take certain steps, and then our friends, colleagues, acquaintances, relations, we have the right to help them, to inform them. Of course, you can't force them, but you can help them in helping them to take informed decisions. So come along and let's learn and enjoy this ride together. Remember, it's all about information and enlightenment. And so let's look at this particular screen here, this page. There's nothing that has generated there's so much controversy and discourse among people in the recent past, much more than this particular story. Now, this individual, this personality is being quoted here when I'm trying to be very careful now whether to call him a he or she or shim or she male. It's confusing. I don't know about you, but in subsequent editions, we'll be discussing the biological basis of with what the personality might have done. Okay, and there's this backlash now. So if you look at the two photographs, the personality on the left is having some experiences. Okay, so what you're looking at is that when this person had the time to do some stuff, I will call it panel beating, I will call it, if you call it makeover and stuff like that, it's so you call this kind of people OAP, online personalities. Now if you pattern your life after these kinds of people, you'll be misled because you won't know exactly the true story. So you could imagine if this, because this personality has been incarcerated for the next 6 months, in less than 24 hours, just look at what has happened to this personality. So come along with us as we continue to discuss this particular thing. So this person dresses like a female. Now it's, of course, you call people like him and people like they really also cross-dresser. Now we are going to be clarifying those things in subsequent editions. And so it's a transgender the same as a cross-dresser, because you can dress anyhow you like. Does that make you a transgender? Because there's a lot of media hype and confusion going around there. So of course, when you get to court, there are some things in life that will shake your confidence and your composure. When push comes to shove, it dawns on you that life is not the way you thought. So you can see the soberness, you can see the emptiness, the void in this person, and so you can see the blankness. Okay, I can imagine what's going on in is or shim, or I don't know what kind of person shim thought or is thought or her thought. I don't know. Maybe let's call him shim thought or is, or I don't know, but let's leave that and move on, please. Now we want to tell certain stories that would set the background to what we have ahead of us. Now this personality, Thomas Beatie, trended some years ago. Okay, in the early 2000s it trended. I mean, you can imagine the media can be very funny, very jobless, and you can shove down your throat all kinds of nonsense and junk stories. Okay, now this guy was all over the place. I mean, this personality was covered all through. This is another shim or she male or him or she. I don't even know what to call these people anymore. But this guy Thomas, not guy, she was born actually as a female. Okay, and then of course, you can imagine the description now is this person has become suddenly a public speaker, a motivational speaker, an author. What kind of books would this person be writing? Of course, you can know it's about transgender rights and stuff like that, things that are just like that. Okay, of course, when you do stuff, you want to justify those things and push that narrative, or so to say. And so this person had surgery. Okay, of course, so he went viral as a pregnant male. That's nonsense, but that's what the media wanted us to believe, and it was all over the place. And then, of course, this person married. Remember, this Shem was born as a female, began, that we are going to be talking about those terms in the next edition. There's something called transition. Okay, during the transition, you go through medical procedures and things like that. So he was going through those procedures when she married. I don't want to use he or she. She married, and then when she married, okay, now the person this personality married could not get pregnant. Okay, so this Shim decided to get pregnant. Okay, so remember, Shim was born as a female, now began some transition journey to become a male. Remember, the transition has not yet been completed. He was on drugs and things like that, but she has not. Did I say she now? No, forget my. I mean, Shim has not completed the transition from a female to a male. So Shim volunteered to get pregnant. Remember, Shim has not, of course, completed the transition. Of course, the alliance or the association has broken down. They've divorced now. But let's look at the next slide. Now, still on the Thomas Beatie story. Now, of course, there's something called sex reassignment. Now, we are going to enlighten ourselves in the next edition about all kinds of things going on now, the kinds of terminologies and things that the media is shoving down our throat, and we are being made to believe something. So if you read those things, you will not even know what's going on in the world anymore. So subsequently, we'll be shedding more light on what is meant by sex reassignment and things like that. Okay, so this person, so there's something called top surgery and low or down surgery. In other words, even though this person was transiting, this person had mastectomy, which means that the breasts were removed, but she still retained her sexual organs. So she still had the ovaries and the uterus. So she was not exactly, did I say she again? She was not exactly a male, because she left, so all she had was top surgery. That's why it is quoted there. She was not, at the time of pregnancy, there's nothing to indicate that this person was a male. Okay, he was getting shot of testosterone, the male hormone, but she has not yet completed the transition. And still on this guy, Thomas Beatie, because he trended for a long time on CNN and all the media spaces at that time. And said by 2012, of course, the things have already gone down. Of course, they've gone through their mess as a couple in court, and then they had to break down. They had to just part, and then they fight for divorce. Now the question is this: who was the male? Who was the female? Okay, now this person that got pregnant has now assumed the position of a male. So she has trended. She has trended as a pregnant male, so to say. So going to court now. Of course, he was trying to use terminology. Okay, let's separate. But of course, Nancy, which is the authentic female, decided, look, let's call it off, and then things like that. Now, the first court they went to gave this man the right. So, because now she was considered a man at the time of that first narrative, and then he was awarded the custody of the 3 children. Imagine she has gone through this nonsense 3 times. Okay, so this Thomas guy or babe or she had. So between them, of course, it was not a sexual thing. It was always by artificial insemination and stuff like that, donor things like that. Okay, so but remember, I mean, the uterus and the everything was still there as a female, so he could continue the stunt and keep impressing and stay in the public eye like that. And of course, after while the court case was going on, there was this another judge that reviewed the case, and this person was miffed, so to say, by what the first court ruled. Now, because the first court ruled that this guy was a male, that was the basis, that was the consideration under which he was given the 3 children to take care of. But this other judge now was talking about this term in law called non pro tunc, which means that you can set aside a previous judgment retroactively. It's like a correction of an anomaly. So that's what that term is called. The non-proton is like a retroactive judgment to correct. So you can say now and then, or then and now. But the important thing is that it was an anomaly. So look at it now, that because you had given birth, you can't be called a male anymore. So it's an anomaly to be given the custody. So that's just something. So you can imagine the problem of mix-up and everything going on. We are just setting the foundation for what we're going to discuss subsequently about the problems that are connected with this gender issue of transgender and gender reassignment and other things going on right now in the world on the media spaces. And then another story, Zia and Zahad, these are Indians, okay? And so there's a report that India has more than 2 million transgenders, you can imagine, okay? So you look at this, okay, there was this pervert that was born, okay, so you can look at the words in red. This person said that he was recorded a male at birth, but now has decided to be called a female. Imagine that nonsense. Okay, she was recorded, meaning who recorded? Was it not what was seen after delivery? So meaning the record said I was, but now I don't want to anymore. So then this other species, Zahad, born a female, now wants to be a female. They too went online and they trended and things like that. And so the person, so they too began this issue of gender journey transition and then male-female stuff. But you can imagine how far the nonsense has gone. So these individuals also trended like that. And the third story was this Carabelle, a UK individual that began this puberty blockers at 16. So this individual's journey began as a teenager. By 17, he already began testosterone shots, meaning to transit and become a male. And those 3 years after, at 20, the breasts were removed, double mastectomy was done, and then she was going through that, and then thank God this one had a little bit of sense and began to realize that, look, the harder she tried, the more difficult it was becoming, because she was going through some psychological and physiological issues. And then, of course, 5 years into the treatment, she decided to just do some changes and try to reverse. I mean, at the point she said she couldn't even cry. I mean, the testosterone were making her, rigid, okay? And this concept of, so there's this thing called gender dysphoria. We talk about that in subsequent editions, but like I said, this is just the foundation. And so this Carabelle, again, look at it, next story. And still on her story, she began to get this shots of testosterone, and they asked her, because if the procedure is irreversible, you want to have a child or not? And so there was this confusion, because as an adult, it was going to be irreversible. Once it is done, remove the ovaries and things like that. So a lot of things had to happen. And so she just thought of it and just decided to stop. And then, because by the time she began the shots of testosterone, she began to develop masculine voice and then facial hair. So you can imagine the kind of changes. Of course, the changes that we are discussing, they don't involve the DNA. So any change that anybody goes through medically that does not alter the DNA is a waste of time and resources, and regrets follow. So look at this slide. The media is very, 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 very effective in feeding us with lies, junks, and deception and hype. And if you live your life by the media, you're likely to be led astray. Look at those personalities. This is just a snippet of what we are going to be seeing subsequently. Look at Michael Jackson. Just look at what became of him. Look at the other personalities on this slide. And so, as we round off this edition, in the next edition, we'll be discussing gender reassignment, transition, sexual orientation, gender affirmation, medical issues, social issues, consequences of the procedure, the cost. And then, of course, we'll be discussing the biology of it all. We are who we are by virtue of what we are supposed to have been at conception. So remember, we are approaching issues from the biological point of view, but we are living beings in a social environment. And so this edition has laid the foundation to what we are going to be discussing subsequently. And so if you have questions, you have comments, because we want to hear from you really, because we know that this is an evolving topic that is very social in orientation, and that will generate all kinds of furore and backlashes and things like that. We want to hear from you as we prepare for the next edition. Send your comments and questions, whatever you want, to us to know about, to our WhatsApp, email, Instagram, and whatever. We want to hear from you so that we can keep discussing together to have a better society and a world that is better for all of us, so that we can all enjoy life together with minimum discomfort and misgiving. So we want to see you and keep hearing from you. So join us in the next edition. Remember, life can be made simple. Life is what we make of it. We can make life hell. We can make life a heaven here on earth. It's all in our hands. There are things we cannot control, but we should not make life hell for ourselves by being overzealous in everything. See you in the next edition. Bye.